The shuttle shook violently as another blast hit its shields. Jack Miller gripped the safety harness tighter and checked the emergency beacon again. It was transmitting, but he knew help would come too late. 3 Valkyrie attack ships surrounded his small diplomatic vessel, their weapons far superior to his shuttle's minimal defenses. "This is Sergeant Jack Miller of Earth Alliance on a diplomatic mission. Cease fire immediately," he transmitted again, knowing it was useless. The Valkyrie weren't known for negotiations. Jack was supposed to be delivering sealed diplomatic packages to the human embassy on Centauri Prime. A routine mission until the shuttle was pulled from jump space by some kind of Valkyrie gravity weapon. Now he was fighting to stay alive in a damaged ship with failing systems. Another hit rocked the shuttle. The shields collapsed completely. "Last warning," came a harsh voice over the comms. The translation software made the alien words sound flat and unnatural. "Power down or be destroyed." Jack weighed his options quickly. He could try to outrun them, but with damaged engines, he wouldn't get far. Fighting back with the shuttle's small pulse cannons would be suicide. His mission was too important to risk complete destruction. With a frustrated sigh, Jack initiated shutdown procedures. The lights dimmed as the shuttle's engines went quiet. In the sudden silence, he could hear his own controlled breathing. Years of combat training kept his heart rate steady despite the danger. "Smart choice, human," the alien voice said. Jack quickly accessed the shuttle's computer. He needed to secure the neural data chip containing sensitive treaty information. The small device, no bigger than his thumbnail, contained encrypted data that could change the balance of power in this sector of the galaxy. He removed it from the console and slipped it into a hidden compartment in his boot, a special pocket that would mask its energy signature from scanners. The shuttle jolted as a tractor beam locked on. Through the viewport, Jack watched as his ship was pulled toward the largest Valkyrie vessel, a warship with jagged blade-like extensions protruding from its dark hull. Jack checked his sidearm, knowing he would be outnumbered. Still, he wasn't going without a fight. As a Marine with Special Forces training, he had faced worse odds on at least 3 different planets. The shuttle's airlock hissed as it was forced open from the outside. Jack positioned himself behind a bulkhead, weapon ready. The first Valkyrie soldier that stepped through was tall, nearly 7 feet, with gray-blue skin and 4 eyes positioned around a triangular head. Its armor was black with red markings indicating officer status. Jack fired 3 precise shots. The first 2 were absorbed by the alien's personal shield, but the third penetrated, striking the Valkyrie in the shoulder joint of its armor. The creature howled and fell back. More soldiers poured in, firing blue energy weapons that sent arcs of electricity through the air. Jack rolled to avoid the first volley, responding with controlled bursts from his own weapon. 2 more Valkyrie dropped, but they kept coming. A shot grazed Jack's arm, sending painful shocks through his body. He grunted but maintained his position, taking down another soldier. Then something heavy hit the back of the shuttle. Gas began pouring through the ventilation system, a pale green mist that stung his eyes. Jack held his breath and tried to reach his emergency rebreather, but his movements were already slowing. The neurotoxin was fast-acting, designed to incapacitate without killing. His vision blurred as 5 more Valkyrie soldiers entered, their breathing masks protecting them from the gas. "Enough games," said the largest one, its voice distorted through its mask. "This one has spirit for such a fragile species." Jack managed to take down 1 more soldier before a stun baton struck him from behind. Electricity coursed through his body, and he fell to his knees. Still, he fought to stay conscious, throwing a punch that connected with the nearest alien's midsection. "Impressive," the leader said, just before hitting Jack with another shock from the stun baton. This time, darkness claimed him. His last thought before losing consciousness was of the mission. The data had to be protected. The Alliance was counting on him. Jack collapsed on the shuttle floor as the Valkyrie commander stood over him. "Take him to interrogation. Commander Kraz Tull will want to speak with this one personally." Jack woke up to a throbbing pain in his head. His vision slowly cleared as he found himself secured to a metal chair in a dimly lit room. His arms and legs were bound by energy restraints that hummed with a low blue glow. The air felt too thin, adjusted to Vrikari preferences rather than human needs. He tested the restraints carefully. No give. These aliens knew how to hold a prisoner. Jack took stock of his situation. They had removed his uniform, jacket, and boots. The neural data chip was gone from its hiding place. Either they had found it, or it had been lost in the struggle. Neither option was good. The door slid open with a hiss. A tall Vrikari entered the room. Unlike the soldiers who had captured Jack, this one wore elaborate armor with numerous insignia and carried himself with clear authority. "I am Commander Kraz Tul," the alien said in surprisingly good English. "You are now aboard the Dreadwing, flagship of the Vrikari Outer Rim Fleet." Jack remained silent, only meeting the commander's 4 eyes with a steady gaze. "Your shuttle's logs identify you as Sergeant Jack Miller, Earth Alliance Marines, a simple courier on a diplomatic run." Kraz Tul circled the chair slowly. "Yet you fought like a war veteran and killed 5 of my soldiers before being subdued." Jack shrugged as much as the restraints would allow. "Basic training." The commander made a clicking sound that might have been laughter. "If that is basic training, humans are more interesting than our reports suggest." He leaned closer. "What were you delivering to Centauri Prime?" "Diplomatic mail," Jack said flatly. "Against galactic law to interfere with diplomatic couriers." Kraz Tul waved a 3-fingered hand dismissively. "Laws apply to those who cannot take what they want by force." He pressed a button on his wrist device, and a hologram appeared showing the contents of Jack's shuttle. No weapons cache. No troop transport. No advanced technology. Just as you claim. A diplomatic mission. The commander's eyes narrowed. "Then why did you fight so hard? Why does a simple mail carrier have combat skills that impress even Vrikari warriors?" Jack said nothing. "We found this." Kraz Tul held up the neural data chip between 2 fingers. "Hidden quite cleverly in your boot. Our technicians are working to break its encryption now." Jack kept his face neutral, but inside he felt a moment of relief. The chip contained a decoy program designed to waste the time of anyone trying to access it without proper authorization. The real data was microscopically etched onto one of his molars, old school and nearly impossible to detect. "Nothing to say?" Kraz Tul asked. When Jack remained silent, the commander nodded to someone out of view. A smaller Vrikari entered, pushing a hovering cart with various instruments Jack didn't recognize, though their purpose was clear enough. "Last chance for a civilized conversation," Kraz Tul offered. "Sergeant Jack Miller, service number 45,872 Alpha. That's all you get." The commander sighed. Predictable, if disappointing. He selected a device from the cart. A thin rod with a glowing red tip. "This neural stimulator bypasses your pain blockers and speaks directly to your nervous system. Most species break after only minutes of exposure." Jack prepared himself mentally. He had undergone resistance training, but there were limits to what any human could withstand. The first touch of the rod to his arm sent fire through his veins. Jack clenched his teeth but didn't make a sound. "Impressive control," Kraz Tul said, increasing the intensity. "But everyone has limits." Through the next hour, Jack endured escalating levels of pain. He gave them nothing but his name and service number, repeating it like a mantra. When the commander finally stepped back, there was a new look in his 4 eyes. Something like respect. "Prepare the truth serum," he ordered the assistant. Then to Jack, "Your physical tolerance is remarkable for your species. Let's see how your mind holds up against chemical persuasion." As they prepared the injection, Jack focused on his breathing. He had been trained for this too. His mind created partitions, safe zones where critical information could be hidden even from chemical interrogation. "Your resistance only delays the inevitable," Kraz Tul said. "But I admit, I am beginning to wonder if you are truly just a courier." The truth serum burned through Jack's veins like liquid fire. His vision blurred, then sharpened to an unnatural clarity, where every detail of the interrogation room became intensely vivid. The drug was designed to lower mental barriers while keeping the subject conscious and responsive. "The serum takes full effect in 90 seconds, said the medical officer, a smaller Vakari with pale blue skin. "He will be unable to fabricate responses." Commander Kraz Tool nodded and waited patiently. Jack focused on his training. The Alliance had developed countermeasures for most known truth agents. He couldn't stop the drug from working, but he could direct it, feeding it memories and thoughts that were true but not valuable. "What is your mission, Sergeant Miller?" Kraz Toll asked once the time had passed. Jack felt the words pulling from his throat against his will. "Diplomatic courier, delivering sealed communications to Centauri Prime." What was in those communications? Don't know. Couriers don't read the mail. This was true. Jack hadn't read the decoy messages. The commander frowned. Why would they send someone with your obvious combat training on a simple courier mission? The drug pulled at Jack's mind, seeking answers. He let a partial truth surface. All diplomatic couriers receive combat training. Space is dangerous. 5 of my elite soldiers would agree, Krastol said dryly. What does the neural chip contain? Security codes. Another partial truth. The decoy chip did contain security codes. They were just outdated ones mixed with false information. The commander looked frustrated. He switched tactics. What is your combat history? This was dangerous territory. Jack's real service record would reveal too much. He focused on his cover identity, letting those memories flow forward instead. 4 years, 3 deployments to border worlds. Security detail. You fight like someone with more experience than border security, Krastful noted. We tested your blood. It contains traces of combat enhancers and genetic modifications, not typical for standard military. Jack hadn't expected that level of analysis. The Vakari were being thorough. He needed to be careful now. The drug was making it harder to control his responses. Special programs available to volunteers, he managed. His heart rate increased as he fought the serum's effects. The medical officer noticed the readings on his monitor. He's resisting the serum. Impressive for a human. Shall I increase the dosage? Krastol considered this, then shook his head. No. Bring in the Talaxian. Jack's stomach tightened. This was bad. The Talaxians were known for their psychic abilities. They could read surface thoughts directly from a subject's mind. Alliance training against psychic intrusion was limited and largely theoretical. While they waited, Krastol studied Jack with increasing curiosity. You know what a Talaxian is. I can see it in your eyes. For a simple courier, you have unusual knowledge. Jack remained silent, conserving his mental energy for the coming challenge. 10 minutes later, the door opened. A slender figure glided into the room. The Talaxian had no visible eyes, just smooth green skin where eyes should be. Its head was elongated, with a network of pulsing veins that glowed with soft purple light. 4 long fingers extended from each hand as it approached Jack. This is Nixvel, Krastol introduced. He will simply take what we need to know. The Talaxian spoke in a melodic voice that seemed to come from everywhere and nowhere. I require physical contact. Jack tensed as the alien placed its cool hands on either side of his head. Immediately he felt pressure in his mind, like someone trying to open a locked door. Interesting defenses, Nixval commented. Most unusual for a human. The pressure increased. Jack visualized barriers. Concrete walls, steel doors, layers of protection around his real memories and knowledge. He fed the Talaxian unimportant memories instead. Training exercises, shuttle flights, boring diplomatic receptions. Suddenly, the alien's hands trembled. It broke contact and stepped back quickly. What is it? Krastol demanded. The Talaxian's voice had lost its melodic quality. Now it sounded concerned, almost afraid. This one's mind is different, compartmentalized. Military-grade mental conditioning. It turned to Krastol. You should verify his identity immediately. I do not believe he is what he claims to be. Lieutenant Lily Garcia leaned closer to her console aboard the U.S. Normandy, her fingers flying across the holographic controls. For 6 hours straight, she had been scanning every frequency, searching for any trace of Jack's shuttle. Anything? Captain Peter Howard asked, his voice tight with concern as he approached her station on the bridge. Nothing clear, sir, Lily said, brushing a strand of dark hair from her face. But I'm picking up scattered transmissions from a Valkyrie warship in Sector 7. They're using heavy encryption. Captain Howard frowned. The Valkyrie weren't supposed to be in this sector. Their presence alone was concerning, but with Jack missing, it raised serious alarms. Can you break their encryption? He asked. Lily shook her head. Not completely, but I'm catching fragments. Something about a prisoner and interrogation protocols. The captain's expression darkened. Keep at it. If they have Jack, we need to know. The U.S. Normandy was one of Earth Alliance's newest stealth vessels, equipped with technology that made it nearly invisible to standard detection systems. Currently hidden in the shadow of a large moon, they could observe without being seen. Sir, called the tactical officer, Ryan Fox, from his station. Long-range scans confirm it's the Dreadwing, Krastol's flagship. That's bad news if they have Jack. Captain Howard nodded grimly. Lieutenant Fox wasn't just the tactical officer. He was also Jack's closest friend and fellow Special Forces operative. The two had served together on numerous classified missions before Jack's current assignment. We can't approach without being detected, Ryan continued. Their sensor array would pick us up once we leave the moon's shadow. We need a distraction, the captain mused, stroking his beard thoughtfully. Lily's console suddenly lit up. Captain, I got something. Her fingers moved rapidly, isolating the signal. It's fragmentary, but they're definitely talking about a human prisoner. They're requesting information about Earth Alliance personnel. They're trying to verify his identity, Ryan said, his face grim. That means Jack hasn't broken. He's still maintaining his cover. Captain Howard turned to his communications officer. Send a tight beam message to Fleet Command. Code Alpha. We've located Surgeon Miller and require immediate authorization for extraction. The crew worked with renewed energy. Jack wasn't just any soldier. He was carrying critical information that could change the course of ongoing peace negotiations with the Arcturian Alliance. If the Valkyrie discovered the true nature of his mission, it could spark an interstellar incident. Lily's console beeped again. Sir, I'm receiving more clear fragments now. The Valkyrie are requesting information specifically about human military personnel with combat enhancement programs. Ryan and Captain Howard exchanged alarmed looks. They're getting close, Ryan said quietly. If they figure out who Jack really is, they won't just be concerned, the captain finished. They'll be terrified. While they waited for authorization from Fleet Command, Lily continued monitoring the transmissions. Suddenly, she gasped. What is it? Captain Howard asked. Sir, they just sent out a high-priority request to their homeworld. They're asking for any information on human operatives with the call sign. She paused, double-checking her translation. Grim Reaper. A heavy silence fell over the bridge. Even crew members who weren't familiar with classified information knew what that meant. The Valkyrie were starting to put the pieces together. How much time do we have before they get a response? The captain asked. Their quantum communication network is fast, Lily said, calculating quickly. Maybe 2 hours at most. The captain turned to Ryan. Prep your team. As soon as we get authorization, you're going in. If the Valkyrie discover they've captured the Grim Reaper, they'll either execute him immediately or call for reinforcements. Ryan nodded sharply and headed toward the lift. And Fox, the captain, called after him. Remember, extraction only. No heroics. Yes, sir, Ryan replied, but his determined expression said otherwise. He wasn't leaving his friend behind. As Ryan assembled his team, Lily continued monitoring the Valkyrie communications, hoping to learn anything that might help the rescue mission. What she heard next chilled her blood. "Captain," she said urgently, "they're moving Jack to high-security detention. Something spooked them. I think they're starting to suspect who they really have." Commander Kraz Tull stood before a large holographic display showing security footage of Jack in his new cell. The human sat perfectly still, eyes closed, seemingly at ease despite his situation. This bothered Kraz Tull. Prisoners should be afraid. Yet this one showed no fear at all. "The ship-wide security drill is complete, Commander," reported his second-in-command, Sub-Commander Vex. "All systems functioning at optimal levels." Kraz Tull nodded absently, his attention fixed on the prisoner. "Any response from Central Intelligence?" "Yes, Commander. The message just arrived." A data pad was placed in Kraz Tull's hand. As he read the information, his 4 eyes widened in alarm. The pad contained a galactic security bulletin about a human operative with extensive combat modifications. The details were fragmented, much of it classified. But what was there made Kraz Tull's blood run cold. "This can't be correct," he muttered, reading further. "A single human responsible for the destruction of the Krell battle station. That was a major military operation." "There's more, sir," Vex said. "The intelligence brief includes verified reports from 3 different species. All mention the same human operative, identified by the callsign Grim Reaper. The report detailed incidents that had become legendary in certain military circles. A Xargon death squad, 12 elite warriors, found dead on an abandoned moon base. A solo mission through the toxic wastelands of Neros Prime that resulted in the rescue of 14 hostages. The destruction of the Krell battle station that had been thought impregnable." "Is this the same human?" Kraz Tull asked, looking at the security feed again. "The physical description matches," Vex confirmed. "And the Talaxian's report about his mental defenses aligns with what we know about Earth's enhanced operatives." Kraz Tull slammed the datapad down. "Why would they send someone like this as a courier? It makes no sense." "Unless," Vex suggested carefully, "he's carrying something far more valuable than diplomatic messages." Realization dawned on Kraz Tull. "The neural chip we recovered is a decoy," Vex finished. "Our technicians just confirmed it contains nothing but outdated security codes and false information." Kraz Tull's mind raced. If they truly had captured the human known as Grim Reaper, and if he was carrying information important enough to warrant sending such an operative, then the Vrikari had stumbled upon something much bigger than they realized. "Double the guard on his cell," Kraz Tull ordered. "Full body scan, deepest level. The real information must be hidden somewhere on his person." "Already underway, sir," Vex replied. "But there's another concern. If the humans realize we have one of their top operatives, they'll come for him." Kraz Tull finished grimly. He turned to his tactical display, studying the surrounding space. "Increased sensor suites. If a human ship is out there, I want to know." As his crew rushed to carry out his orders, Kraz Tull returned to the security feed. The human was no longer sitting still. He was examining his surroundings with subtle movements, his eyes tracking the security cameras. The commander felt a chill. This wasn't the behavior of a man concerned about his fate. This was a predator assessing his environment. "How long until we reach the Vrikari fleet?" he asked. "Approximately 6 hours at current speed," Vex answered. "Increase to maximum," Kraz Tull ordered. "I want this prisoner transferred to a secure facility as soon as possible." Back in his cell, Jack noticed the change in the guards' behavior. They were nervous now, hands closer to their weapons, watching him with new wariness. They had discovered something. That meant his time was running short. Jack flexed his wrists against the energy restraints. During the transfer to this cell, he had managed to pocket a small metal shard from a damaged wall panel. Now, hidden from the cameras by his body physician, he began working it into the restraint mechanism. Soon, he would be free. And then, The Valkyrie would learn firsthand why some beings across the galaxy whispered the name Grim Reaper with fear. The ship-wide alarm blared 3 short bursts followed by a long wail. Commander Kraz Tool looked up from his tactical display with alarm. "Report." He barked into his communicator. "Sir, the prisoner has escaped," came the panicked voice of the security chief. "Cell B7 is empty. 2 guards are down." Krastol slammed his fist on the console. "How?" "The energy restraints were rated for 3 times human strength." "Unknown, sir. The monitoring systems were looped somehow. We're reviewing backup feeds now. Lock down all decks. Arm all personnel. I'd want him found immediately." Krastol turned to Sub-Commander Vex. "How long until we reach the fleet?" 3 hours, sir." "Too long." Krastol pulled up the ship schematics on his display. "He'll target essential systems. Double the guards on the engine room and bridge." In the shadowy maintenance tunnels that ran beneath the main corridors of the Dreadwing, Jack moved silently. The Valkyrie ship design was efficient but predictable. Like most military vessels, the critical systems were arranged in a way that minimized vulnerable points, but this also made them easier to locate. Jack had freed himself from the restraints using the metal shard he palmed earlier, then created a loop in the cell's surveillance system by crossing the right wires in the control panel. The guards never saw him coming. Now dressed in a modified version of a guard's uniform, Jack carried a Valkyrie energy pistol and a datapad he'd taken from one of the unconscious guards. The datapad gave him limited access to the ship's systems, enough to track guard movements and avoid patrols. His first target was the ship's communication array. If the U.S. Normandy was out there, they would need a signal to lock onto. Jack reached a junction in the maintenance tunnel and consulted the ship schematic he'd memorized during his captivity. The communications hub would be 2 levels up. As he climbed through the access shaft, he could hear the chaos spreading through the ship. The Valkyrie were not used to dealing with an enemy inside their own vessel. Over the ship's announcement system, he heard Krastol's voice. "All personnel, the human prisoner is considered extremely dangerous. Do not approach alone. Use lethal force if necessary." Jack smiled grimly. They'd figured out who he was, which meant they were now afraid. Fear made enemies predictable. He reached the communications level and peered through a grate into the corridor. 4 armed guards stood outside the communications room door. More than he'd expected. Direct confrontation would be risky. Jack spotted an environmental control panel nearby. The Valkyrie required a different atmospheric mixture than humans, which gave him an idea. He carefully removed the panel cover and accessed the environmental systems. With a few adjustments, he increased the oxygen level in that section. Harmless to him, but intoxicating to Valkyrie. Within minutes, the guards began to show signs of disorientation. Their movements became sluggish, and they leaned against the walls for support. Jack slipped out of the maintenance tunnel and approached silently from behind, neutralizing each guard with precise strikes to vulnerable points in their anatomy. Inside the communications room, 2 technicians turned in surprise. Jack stunned them, both before they could sound an alarm. He quickly barricaded the door, then turned to the communication array. The system was complex, but not unfamiliar. Jack had studied Valkyrie technology during his training. He bypassed the security protocols and set the main array to emit a specific pulse pattern on a frequency the Normandy would recognize, a standard Alliance distress code with his personal identifier embedded. As he worked, Jack heard Krastol's voice again over the shipwide system. "Attention all crew. The escaped prisoner is the human operative known as Grim Reaper. Extreme caution is advised. He is trained in multiple forms of combat and infiltration. Security teams implement Protocol Omega." Jack knew what that meant. They were sealing the ship section by section, flooding areas with stun gas when necessary. His window of opportunity was closing. The communications array lit up as his signal began transmitting. Just a few seconds would be enough for the Normandy to get a fix on his location. Jack had completed his first objective, but he wasn't done yet. The Valkyrie had made a critical mistake by bringing him aboard. They were about to learn why some called him the Grim Reaper. Aboard the U.S. Normandy, alarms suddenly blared across the bridge. "Captain, we've got a signal," Lily shouted excitedly. "It's Jack's personal distress code, coming from the Valkyrie ship." Captain Howard leaned forward in his command chair. "Location confirmed." "Yes, sir. Signal is weak but definite. Port side of the Dreadwing, near their communications array." The captain turned to tactical. "Lieutenant Fox, status of your team." Ryan stood ready at the weapons console, already in full combat gear. "Strike team is prepared for immediate launch, sir. Stealth shuttles are fueled and armed." "You've got authorization," Howard said, handing Ryan a data chip. "Fleet Command has cleared us for extraction. Priority 1. Ryan nodded grimly. "We'll bring him home, sir." 6 minutes later, 2 black shuttles detached from the Normandy's launch bay. Their stealth systems engaged. The small vessels were practically invisible to standard sensors, especially with the distraction Jack had provided. Ryan sat in the lead shuttle with 5 other special operatives, all veterans who had worked with Jack before. They knew his methods and what he was capable of. "Listen up," Ryan addressed his team. "Jack's created chaos on that ship, which works in our favor, but we can bet Kraz Tull has figured out who he's dealing with by now. They'll be expecting some kind of rescue attempt. If Jack's free and moving, why not just direct him to an extraction point?" asked Eric Daniels, the team's demolition expert. "The Valkyrie are implementing security lockdowns," Ryan explained. "We need to create a path for him. Remember, Jack's carrying high-level intel that cannot fall into enemy hands." The 2 shuttles approached the Valkyrie warship from below, using its own hull to mask their approach from the ship's sensors. Docking would be risky, but Ryan had studied Valkyrie ship designs extensively. There, he pointed to a maintenance airlock on the schematics displayed in the shuttle. "We breach here, then move toward Jack's signal. Team 2 will secure our exit route." The shuttle pilot, Kate Wilson, maneuvered skillfully beneath the massive Valkyrie vessel. 30 seconds to contact," she reported. "No sign they've detected us." Inside the Dreadwing, Jack had moved from the communications room to the ship's power distribution center. He needed to disable the internal security barriers Kraz Tull had activated. The room was guarded by 6 Valkyrie soldiers, all on high alert. Jack studied their positions from a ventilation shaft above. Direct confrontation would be noisy and risky. He needed a distraction. Using components he collected from various systems around the ship, Jack quickly assembled a small device. It wasn't elegant, but it would serve his purpose. He attached it to a ventilation fan at the far end of the corridor and set the timer. 30 seconds later, a series of electrical surges and smoke poured from the ventilation system away from his position. As expected, 4 of the guards ran to investigate. Jack dropped silently from the shaft behind the remaining 2 guards and neutralized them efficiently. Inside the power distribution center, Jack quickly located the controls for the security barriers. As he worked to disable them, his combat instincts suddenly flared. He dove to the side just as an energy blast scorched the wall where he had been standing. "Impressive reflexes," Commander Kraz Tull said, stepping from the shadows with a high-powered energy rifle aimed at Jack. "I decided to guess where you might go next. It seems I chose correctly." Jack stayed low, sheltered behind a console. "Your ship's security is impressive, Commander. Better than most I've encountered." "A compliment from the Grim Reaper," Kraz Tull said, his voice mixing fear with respect. "You've killed 8 of my crew and disabled critical systems in less than an hour. Your reputation is well earned." "I haven't even started yet," Jack replied. The ship suddenly shuddered. Alarms blared from a different section. Kraz Tull's communicator crackled to life. "Commander, we have a breach in Maintenance Airlock 7. Human forces are aboard." Jack smiled. "That would be my ride." Commander Kraz Tull fired his weapon again, forcing Jack to roll behind heavier equipment. The energy blast melted part of the console Jack had been using. "Your friends cannot reach you in time," Krastul said, moving to get a better angle. "This section is sealed." Jack assessed his options. The commander was right. Even with Ryan's team on board, the security barriers were still active between them. He needed to complete his task. "You know what puzzles me?" Jack said, keeping the commander talking while he reached for the small device he'd assembled earlier. "Why would a Vrikari commander risk war with Earth over a diplomatic courier?" "We both know you're no courier," Krastul replied. "The neural chip in your tooth contains something valuable enough to send the Grim Reaper to deliver it." Jack froze momentarily. They'd found the real data. That changed things. "You think you understand," Jack said, "but you have no idea what you've stumbled into." He threw the device across the room. It detonated with a flash that temporarily blinded the Vrikari's sensitive eyes. Jack used the distraction to close the distance between them, knocking the weapon from Krastul's hands. The commander was a skilled fighter. He recovered quickly and blocked Jack's first strike, countering with a blow that would have crushed a normal human's ribs. But Jack wasn't normal. His enhanced body absorbed the impact, and he responded with a series of precise hits, targeting the Vrikari's nerve centers. "What was on the chip?" Jack demanded as they fought. "Peace," Krastul gasped as Jack's strike found its mark. "A peace treaty with the Arcturians. My superiors want war, not peace." Understanding dawned on Jack. This hadn't been a random attack. The Vrikari military hardliners had targeted his shuttle specifically to sabotage peace negotiations. Through the ship's interior, Ryan's team fought their way toward Jack's position. They encountered heavy resistance as the Vrikari defenders realized they were dealing with human special forces. "Jack's signal is just ahead," Ryan told his team as they took cover at a junction. "But there's a security barrier in the way." Eric examined the barrier control. "I can disable it, but it'll take time." "We don't have time," Ryan replied. He pulled out a special breaching charge. "Stand back." The explosion rocked the corridor, damaging the barrier emitters. Through the smoke, Ryan led his team forward. Back in the power distribution center, Jack had gained the upper hand in his fight with Krastul. The commander was on his knees, bleeding from several wounds. "It's over," Jack said, retrieving the Vrikari's weapon. "Your ship is compromised. Your crew is in chaos, and Earth forces are aboard." "Kill me then," Krastul said. "It is what the Grim Reaper does." Jack shook his head. "Not today. You're going to tell my government everything about who ordered this interception." The door to the chamber burst open. Ryan entered with his team, weapons raised. "Jack," Ryan called out. "Status." "Secure," Jack replied. "And I've got a prisoner with valuable information." Ryan nodded to his men, who quickly restrained Krastul. "The exit route is clear, but not for long. We need to move." The extraction team moved swiftly through the ship, encountering sporadic resistance that was quickly neutralized. They reached the maintenance airlock where their shuttles waited. As they boarded, Jack turned to Krastul. "You wanted to know why they sent the Grim Reaper as a courier. Because sometimes the message itself is less important than ensuring everyone knows how serious we are about delivering it." Back aboard the Normandy, Captain Howard greeted Jack with relief. "Mission status, Sergeant." Jack reached into his mouth and removed the special molar cap containing the neural data chip. "Mission accomplished, sir, though not quite as planned." "That's why we send our best," the captain said with a smile. "When things go sideways, they adapt." 2 weeks later, Jack stood in the Grand Hall of the Galactic Assembly on Earth. Representatives from 27 species were gathered for the formal signing of the peace treaty between Earth and the Arcturian Alliance. The attempted sabotage by Vrikari hardliners had backfired completely, strengthening both sides' commitment to peace. As Jack entered in his formal uniform, a hush fell over the alien delegates. He noticed how representatives from several species leaned away slightly as he passed. His reputation preceded him. "Remarkable," murmured the Earth ambassador. "Sometimes your presence accomplishes more than a fleet of warships could." Jack nodded slightly. Being the Grim Reaper had its uses, both on the battlefield and off it. Today, that reputation was serving peace.